Hello everyone, my name is Yves Slachmuylders and this is me when I was 7 years old. Around the time that this picture was taken, I wanted to become a doctor. I was going to go to school, study medicine, and for as far as I was concerned, I would become a doctor and stay a doctor for the rest of my life. That's what I had seen with my parents and the parents of my friends who were in a single profession, worked for a single employer for most of them, for all of their lives. Now, looking at my own career, but also looking at my children whom are aged between 7 and 12 today, I have a hard time believing that I will be doing the same thing for the rest of my life. And even if I would, I have a hard time believing that I will be doing it in the same way in 5 years from now. The changes in the labor market are tremendous over those past 40 years. And the pace of change is even accelerating. As big a difference as there is between these three generations in their thinking about jobs and careers, their thinking on learning would probably be remarkably similar. Most grandparents, parents, and children today would still think about a school, a classroom, teachers, grades, and exams when they think about learning. And even when you would think about on-the-job learning, you would still think about a course and a test of some kind. How can it be that we still think about learning the same way we did 40 years ago, when the workplace and the type of jobs that we are doing is actually changing at the speed of lightning? Today, there is a growing demand for a wider, broader range of skills. And all of us will need to approach learning with a very different mindset if we want to meet the demands of the future. In this talk, I want to give you a new perspective on learning, one which is inspired on our Chief Learning Officer, Matt Smith. At the end of it, I hope to have inspired and equipped you with some practical next steps that you can implement to acquire new skills more effectively. So why do we need to learn? Today's world is increasingly hard, driven by data, analytics, and technology. Artificial intelligence, automation, and robotics are bringing a historical shift to the workplace across virtually all professions. Not just what we do, but also how we do it is changing rapidly. So much that the World Economic Forum has declared a reskilling emergency in 2020, as they estimate that over 1 billion jobs will actually be disrupted and changed through technology. Now, reskilling is the process of learning new skills so you can move on to a new job, or the process of training people to enable them to do a new job. In essence, it has two components. The first one is around building the very skills that you need to keep up with the pace of change and innovation. For example, how to learn about a new tool or new software. But it's also about adapting to the new ways of working, which emerge from that innovation. For example, how do you suddenly need to manage now and lead a team at a distance? Or nurses who need to redefine what patient care means at a time that technological innovation is actually disrupting the way their routine tasks are being performed. All of us will need to continuously learn new skills. And COVID-19 has had a significant impact on this process by accelerating a number of existing trends. Our analysis shows that 25% more people are likely to have to change professions by 2030 than was indicated in our pre-COVID numbers. Not only did the pandemic accelerate existing trends, it also made these shifts in working more visible and more tangible. All right, let's summarize. So, jobs are undergoing significant change due to technology, and we will all need to learn new skills. We will need to reskill if we are to remain relevant. But what are then those skills that we need to learn? When you look at this graph, two things stand out. The first one, is pretty straightforward. As you would expect, technological skills are going to be on the rise. Skills like advanced IT, programming and others, but also more basic digital skills, could grow by as much as 55% between 2016 and 2030. In essence, the challenge is to upskill people to a basic level of digital knowledge, while at the same time also growing the new digital experts. Our second insight is perhaps a bit more counterintuitive. We also expect a rapid increase in finely tuned social, emotional, and managerial skills. These so-called soft skills don't seem to fit very well with the previous insight, but actually they do. Because if you think about it, by integrating advanced technologies into the workplace, we want workers to embrace the very skills which machines are a very long way from mastering. Remember the nurses we talked about before. Let's zoom in on those soft skills for a moment. Already our analysis shows that soft skills are among the most sought after by HR professionals. They report skill gaps in at least 3 main areas. The first one is around problem solving, critical thinking, innovation and creativity. Or how do you solve a problem of which the solution is not readily available from a cookbook or from a manual? The second one is around dealing with complexity and ambiguity. Or how comfortable are you with making decisions under uncertainty with an incomplete fact base? The third one is around communication. Or how able and capable are you of conveying a message clearly and in a way that it also sticks with people, with your audience. And this is where the pieces come together. As I said earlier, we need to reframe learning. And perhaps that is the most clear and the most obvious when we talk about these soft skills. While we need both hard and soft skills, the latter are typically more difficult to acquire through formal learning. Soft skills are linked to behaviors, attitudes, and reflexes that we need to internalize rather than simply know or understand. Let me take the example of a person who might have taken a great course in communication and may have actually come out as the first one of his class. There is no guarantee at all for that person the day afterwards to indeed be able to bring across a message with passion and conviction. Based on that, you might actually conclude that these soft skills are harder and more difficult to learn, but that is not the case. The point I want to make today is that any skill, whether it be soft or hard skills, can be learned if we reframe learning. We should consider learning as a skill in itself rather than an activity. We need to see learning as the skill through which we intentionally learn and acquire new skills on a day-to-day basis. Learning needs to become a behavior of itself, a mindset. In short, we should become intentional learners. So what is intentional learning? Intentional learners are aware of their areas for development, and they get more out of their daily life because they actually pursue every single activity and find opportunities in every single activity and meeting, every single interaction to learn new things. Intentional learners have internalized the mindsets and the skills to develop learning which can boost in itself their personal and professional lives. And the good news is that you too can become an intentional learner. To do so, there are 2 things you need to believe and 5 things you need to practice. At the end of this talk, you might not be an intentional learner just yet, but I do hope to have inspired you and triggered you to learn more and to develop learning as a skill. As I talk through these mindsets and behaviors, I'd like to use myself as an example. I am used to presenting, but not really in this kind of settings. To be honest, this is actually way out of my comfort zone. I'm used to presenting in a meeting room, on a rather specialized topic where everything I say is being backed up by facts and numbers and slides and the like, right? So for me, preparing for this type of presentation is truly a learning experience in itself. As I said, learning starts with the mindsets, the beliefs. And two mindsets are very powerful fuel for intentional learning. A growth mindset on the one hand, and a curiosity mindset on the other hand. A growth mindset means that you think about yourself as an ever-growing, expanding, evolving person. Your abilities are not fixed and you're not limited by them. Failure is not an indication of your limits, but rather an information, an indication of areas that you can develop further. Many people think about themselves as being good or bad at something. They believe that they are the way they are. And that mindset actually puts limits to your ability to learn and to develop. By shifting your inner dialogue, you can actually start to gradually adopt a growth mindset. For example, when I was preparing for this talk, the inner dialogue that I needed to shift was a mindset of, I'm not very good at these kind of talks, to, I need to practice because I want to learn how to do this well. So that's the growth mindset. The other mindset is around curiosity. By being open to new ideas, by asking questions, and by going outside of your own comfort zone, you are exposed to ever more learning opportunities. Curiosity helps you to stay aware, it broadens your perspective, and it creates fertile ground for further learning. The best advice is to just get started. Ask questions, probe for insights, try new things. And if you get tired of it, then try something new, but never stop trying. So the growth mindset and the curiosity mindset are the fuel for intentional learning. But what do intentional learners actually use that fuel for? There are 5 skills, 5 behaviors that they cultivate. Without these 5 skills, without these behaviors, you risk to direct your energy into a whole variety of ways without being very effective in your learning. The first mindset, the first behavior, is around setting goals for yourself. If you want to be an effective learner, you have to set goals. Why is that? Because having a goal in mind will not only direct your energy and focus your curiosity, it will also make the things that you learn more sticky. That's because when we care about something, we are learning about it, we are investing in ourselves, and we will go further in trying to get true hold of it. Just think about your own time at high school and the things that you still remember which you were passionate about versus the things that you are perhaps less passionate about and what you still remember of those. For me, the goal was clear. Today, at this specific time, I want to give this talk because the topic matters to me, the idea of conveying the message mattered to me, and the idea of learning a new presentation skill mattered to me. And so I at least found 3 different goals which kind of led me to develop my learning. The second behavior is around removing distractions. Although intentional learners indeed find all kinds of occasions throughout the day to develop their learning, in the end they also need to set aside and protect some time to deepen their knowledge and to practice. How you set aside that time is up to you, but it is important to carve it out and to really spend time on deepening knowledge and practicing. Set up your workspace in a way that you can get focused. Yeah? If your smartphone distracts you, then put it aside. If you need fresh air, if that helps you, then take a walk before you actually start. The third one is around seeking feedback. Other people are an integral part of how intentional learners learn. They can give you personal and actionable feedback that you can actually use to help and improve your own learning. Start by informing your environment about what you want to learn, which areas you want to develop, and ask them for real feedback on it. Ask for their observations, ask them to look at it specifically, and then you can actually use that information to integrate it in your own learning. For example, I did this by not just reaching out to my own colleagues on this, but as late as last week, we were here together with the organizers of TEDx, who actually helped me through their experience to give me actionable feedback on how I could improve my talk. The fourth behavior is actually around practice. Bruce Lee said at some point, "I do not fear the man who practiced 10,000 kicks one time, but I do fear the man who practiced one kick 10,000 times." There is no silver bullet to learning, but research does indicate that practice indeed builds expertise. And that doesn't mean that you have to repeat the same thing over and over again. As soon as you know where you want to grow, which areas you want to develop, you can focus on those, put appropriate challenge on that, and stretch yourself. Not so much that you get discouraged by it, but just enough to stretch and improve your learning. For example, I rehearsed this talk over and over again, first by reading from the screen, and then every time a little bit less. And in doing so, I didn't just learn about my talk, but I also learned a new skill that I wanted to develop for presentation. The last one is around reflection. We need to practice self-reflection. Improve your learning by reflection at least 3 stages of every task. The first one is before the task. Push yourself to think through options and different approaches as you get started. The second one is during the task. Explore for yourself whether things are going as planned and course correct if needed. The third one is after the task. Evaluate and distill learnings for the future. For example, I've put a lot of thought in my talk beforehand. Which examples would I use? Which content would I bring? Which twists would I make in the presentation? But as I'm actually standing here, I'm thinking of new ways that I can actually use to improve my talk. New examples, new twists to bring. And tonight I will no doubt use them to improve them for a next session. Because in the end, the learning for me was never about the talk itself. It was specifically for me also about learning a new skill, closing a gap in my presentation skills to improve me for the future. In conclusion, we will all be needing to improve our skills and acquire new ones throughout our entire lives. And for this, we need a new way to look at learning. The 2 mindsets and the 5 behaviors of intentional learning will help us thrive. Learning to be an intentional learner is not just an investment you make in yourself. It just might be one of the most fundamental skills for professionals in the future. Whether you are a member of a team, whether you are a team leader, or indeed even a leader of a multinational organization. At the beginning of this talk, I compared myself to my parents and to my children. Let me do the same to close with. For me and my parents, learning success very much meant getting good grades at school. And obviously, when I think about my children, I want them to get good grades as well and to be successful. But more importantly, I want them to learn how to learn and to enjoy it. If there's anything I want them to take away from their education, most importantly, it is the mindset and the attitudes of effective, intentional learners. Thank you.